Now, I don't normally advertise programs, but I'm starting this with, for the want of a better word, an advert, because I'm going to be doing a design today in a new program that's been specifically designed for domestic embroidery machine owners, and it's called Hatch. And here it is. So I'm going to click on Learn More, and this is the program that I'm using today, and it comes with a 30-day free trial. So if you like it, you've got a couple of options. You can buy it as a modular program, and let's just quickly find the buy now bit. Here we go. You can buy the basic program for $149. You can buy the Embroidery Creator, which is the Embroidery Basics, which is this one, the Monogrammer, the Layout Editor, and the Auto Digitiser, which means you can start off, and as funds become available, you add on the various packages. Or, and this is the cheapest way, if you've got the readies, you buy the whole program, which includes the digitiser, for $1,099. Okay, end of ad. Let's close that. And this is its user interface. Now, I've got to be upfront and truthful. I'm not that struck by the user interface, and I'm talking now about the look of it. I like colour. I'm mad about colour. So for somebody who loves colour, I find this a bit grey. However, don't let that detract from what this program can do. It's a fantastic program. I was going to say little program. It's not little. It's powerful. It's designed by the Wilcom team, who make arguably the best commercial software there is for digitizing. They also make the Genome software and the Bonina Artista software. And strangely, all three of them, when you look at them, are very similar in appearance. Okay, so I've got that out of the way. Now I'm going to be doing an applique design in this program. I'm not going to go through all the menus and through all these icons. I don't know about you, but when I'm introduced to something and I go through absolutely everything in the menus and everything in the icons, I turn off. I go to sleep. It's a wee bit like being back at school and you've got the teacher at the front of the class explaining algebra. I never did hack algebra. Anyways, there are certain things that you need to know if you're a first-time user of Hatch, or even if you've downloaded Hatch and you're playing with it. So I will go through those, and I'll go through those before I start the design. And the first thing I want to show you is software settings, and it's up in the top alpha toolbar. That's this, I'm not quite certain what colour to call it. It's not pure turquoise, it's not blue, and it's not green, but it's up on this ribbon. So I click on that, and you'll notice that its heading has turned bright orange. User interface settings. Okay, general. You can elect to autosave your design, and you can tell it how frequently. I don't autosave. I got my first software back in the mid-90s, and even though I never learnt to use the darn thing, I very quickly discovered that autosave could crash the program. I got into the habit of saving my own work frequently. So autosave I don't tick. But some people like the safety that autosave gives. So it's a personal decision. You make your mind up. Toolbars. Show tool names. Yes, please. Show large icons. Now I'm going to unclick that. And I'm going to tell this OK. Now, did you see that? Right. User interface. Watch these icons. Show large icons. See? They're enlarged. I haven't got the best eyesight in the world. And so I need those larger icons. I could do with them being even bigger, but that's me. Okay, back up to software settings. User interface. Edit artwork. They give you the option of paint or Coral Photo Paint. That means if you bring in a piece of artwork and it's too big or it's a wee bit dirty, I'm talking about smudgy lines, you can elect to do it in paint or Coral Photo Paint, and then once you've finished it will return you to the program. But you have to own, well, paint is in all Windows computers, but you have to own Coral Photo Paint to be able to use it. I don't use either. I have my own graphics handling programs and I sort my graphics out before I bring them in. Show measure tooltip. Enable mouse click sound. Excuse me, I've got indigestion. And then we've got crosshair cursor. I know this confuses some people sometimes, including me. So I'm going to tell that OK. And then I'm going to go and pick up a tool, any tool. And immediately I've got this crosshair cursor. It's a vertical and a horizontal line. And if I want to put a node in the center of my hoop, I stick my cursor there. I want to go up to a corner of a square, I click on it, and so on. Very, very handy for accurate node placing. But if you're not used to it, and I'm not really used to it, I prefer not to use it. I've got to sit and practice using that cursor. So I'm going to hit escape. The cursor is gone. And then I'm going to click on that and tell that delete. OK. Back to software settings. User interface. So you can elect to use that, or you can elect to use the other cursor that comes in the program. Grid. I've got my grid set at the moment for 10 by 10. If I'm digitizing for myself, I digitize with a grid of 2mm by 2mm. Now, I think in millimeters. I don't think in imperial. View, true view. This is true view. It gives you a computer rendition of what it thinks your design is going to look like in thread. In other words, a realistic view. Only trouble is, you won't know what it's going to look like until you've actually stitched it on your embroidery machine, because digitizing programs are not WYSIWYG programs. What you see is not what you get when you stitch, because the computer can't factor in how your stabilizer is going to behave, what your fabric is, how well you hoop, all the little variables. Okay, show stitches, show shapes. I don't show needle points. Show connectors. Those tell you where you're going to have a jump. Show bitmap artwork. Show vector artwork. Dim artwork. Now I have dim artwork ticked. I'm going to untick it because I'm going to work with a black and white graphic. I don't show article and I don't show work area. Those are things that we will come to later, not in this set of videos. Scroll. Default action is normally zoom by 1.25. I like my center scroll button to do exactly that. Scroll. So I've got it set for vertical scroll. So I tell that, OK. I go back up to software settings and I come to embroidery settings, design. If you're going to edit something inside of Hatch and it's a pre-digitized design that you have purchased, bring it in and tell it leave stitches as individual stitches. If you have convert stitches into object shapes, the program will guess the tool type, the stitch type, the density setting. And even though the stitch recognition function in all Wilcom software is extremely good, it is not infallible. It makes mistakes. Whereas if you leave stitches as individual stitches, there is no room for a mistake to be made. It will display it as stitches. The difference being, if you leave stitches as individual stitches and you enlarge your design, it won't recalculate stitches for you. It'll simply lengthen the stitch. If you elect to have convert stitches into object shapes, if you then resize, it will allocate new stitches and it will have guessed what your densities are, and it will use that guess for densities to fill in with extra stitches. I'm not going to go any deeper into it because it's quite complex, but if you don't intend doing massive enlargements on pre-digitized designs, just bring them in as stitches and leave them like that, because you can enlarge. Oh, and the context toolbar is not open. You can enlarge by 10, 15 or 20%. You don't really want to go any further than 20%. You can reduce, and I would suggest you don't reduce by any more than 10%. Otherwise, stitches that were reasonably short to begin with become too short and can cause problems. So if a design isn't the right size for your hoop, then you should have purchased a design that was suitable for the size hoop that your machine has. Okay, group designs on opening or insert. Yes. Nothing more annoying than opening a design. You want to move it. You go to move it, and instead of the whole thing moving as one, you grab one small little bit because it wasn't grouped. So group designs on opening or insert, yes. If you're new to digitizing, apply closest join while digitizing, click it. It's a great aid. I've got used to putting in my own entry and exit points, so I tend not to bother with that. But if you are new, then tick that. Edit. Duplicate with offset. You can see mine is set for 0. I like my offsets to sit on top of the object that I'm just duplicating, and then simply move the duplicate over to where I want it. Overlap. A common mistake most new digitizers make is they butt shapes up. Instead of having an overlapping area such as this, they will just butt that into that shape there. This incidentally is about, you've got a tool, and I think it's in edit objects, it's remove overlaps, and that means areas where you've got 2 layers of stitching and you don't want them, and it will give you an overlap of 1 millimeter, and that stops gapsiosis. And the same here. If it's only a small shape, it is not going to remove the stitches underneath. If it's a loose density, it's not going to remove the stitches underneath. Applique. I have single I don't use frame out. I actually remove my frame from the machine because I've got arthritic hands and I don't find it easy to trim in hoop. And the frame out, as your first layer is stitched, it will put a jump somewhere that will move the frame forward to allow you to trim around the fabric that you've just stitched down to your carrying fabric. But I prefer to do that with the hoop removed, and in actual fact I pre-cut mine, and then when it stitches the placement line I take the hoop off, get my pre-cut piece of applique fabric, spritz it with a teeny bit of 505, place it into my hoop. Okay, machine and hoop, I will show you where you find that and where you set it. You can set it in here. You can also set it up here. That's your machine filter, your hoop filter. And multi-hooping, I'm not going to bother to look at. Automatic centering, I don't like automatic centering. And it won't let me take it off. And I don't want manual either. Set hoop center is there. Okay, custom hoops, and I'm not going to show you this, but remember, it's in embroidery settings. Now, up here, I've got a machine filter. And this program has an enormous range of domestic embroidery machines. You've got the Singers, the Fafs, others. Now, others can be multi-needle embroidery machines, industrial ones, because an awful lot of domestic embroidery stitchers are now buying multi-needle machines. And so it gives you the opportunity, if like me, you own a multi-needle machine, because I own 2 embroidery machines. I own a domestic, and then I own what's called compact single head 15 needle machine. That allows me then to create hoops that will fit a machine called Other. Then we've got all the Janome and Alna machines. Then you've got all the Husqvarnas and a lot of Husqvarnas. You've got the Brothers. By the looks of it, the whole range in each one. Then you've got Bonetta, Babylock and Bonina. So I'm going to come down to Janome, and I've got the Janome 9900, and there's only 3 hoops go with that machine, so that's the only hoops it gives me. Now if I owned the Brother Entrepreneur PR1000 and I open my hoop filter, 25 hoops, an enormous amount of hoops. So this program covers just about every machine, every hoop that you could possibly need. And if it doesn't, in software settings, embroidery settings, you can create a hoop. Okay, this is your measurement system, metric or US, because I think the US is the only country left that still uses imperial measurements. Now I want to go into background. Solid color. Solid color is this area. Color inside hoop. And I click the down chevron. And I ask for more. And I click this yellow row, second one down, tell it OK. I'm not using a factory article or a factory fabric or a custom fabric, because you can scan your own fabrics in and they will appear. So if you've got a particular fabric that you want to use for applique, scan it into your computer and pop it into the fabric folder inside the program. Okay, guidelines. I want a colour I can see. I'm going to click on red. So I tell that, OK. That's my sewing field for the small 140 by 140 hoop that goes on my machine. Actually, I think I want to use the 170 by 200. Thank you. Now, you'll notice I didn't say hoop, I said sewing field. And that's because my hoop, my physical hoop, is a lot bigger than this rectangle. This is the sewing area for my machine. That red line. And when I digitize, I have to make certain no stitches cross that red line into the grey, because otherwise my machine will go, nope, sorry, can't accept you, you are the wrong size, because one stitch has strayed over the line. So learn the sewing fields of your hoops. They'll be in your machine manual. Now, all around your sewing field you have an area of about 1.5 centimetres, which is a safety zone, and that's so as your embroidery foot doesn't accidentally strike the plastic frame. Then of course you've got the plastic frame, so you're out here somewhere, and then you've got the gizmo that attaches it to your machines. But your sewing field is the bit you've got to learn. There is no such thing as a 5 by 7 hoop. Learn the metric measurements, and then you'll discover exactly what size your sewing field is. It's just a generic term that came around because people were so used to using inches, and digitisers got very lazy, and instead of saying, oh well, it's actually 6.7/8 of an inch tall, they went, yeah, 7 inches, and maybe 4.93 inches wide. They went, yeah, it's 5 inches. But of course, if you actually enlarged a design to 7 inches tall by 5 inches wide, your machine would say, sorry, can't stitch it, it's too big for the sewing field, even though your physical hoop size said it was a whole lot bigger than 5 by 7 inches. Okay, that's the little lecture. Now there are other things that I need to tell you, but we will cover those as we do the design. So I'm going to start a new video now and show you how to go and find your graphic and bring it in, put it into your sewing field.